George is a coach right now. He's located in Atlanta. Hello. I was just, yeah, I know. I had to put my hat on because
what's going on here?
I actually got booked for a commercial. Of course, you know that, but I didn't get a chance to say anything. And I went and I got my nice little COVID test drive through.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, I'll just go for a run, not knowing what time it is. But anyway, that's why I got my hat on, and I would do the same thing.
You know, I was out, it's raining here, and I went for a run, and I had like the whole hat skull thing flattened out going on. So I just kind of got back in. But anyway, enough. We won't do a hair clinic today because God knows that.
Okay.
Yeah, actors, make sure before a gig, don't, like, golden rule, like, never get a haircut without using a picture and clearing with production. Note to self. I took in like a photo the last time too, and like all of a sudden, the old saying is once they take it off, they can't put it back on, and they like scalped me. I was like, here, you do this, and all of a sudden she went, and I was like, what happened to all the hair on top?
Ouch.
Like, too late for that. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, I remember being told, you know, from my manager or manager's office, don't look like you rolled out of bed to take your self-tape. Like, oh, well, I don't know if I was a big offender, but
yeah, that.
Oh. But there, I guess everybody did that, you know. I mean, where do we go? We just go either in the closet or this is my little studio here. I know you've seen it, but I don't think everybody.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. You've got a cool soundproof. She's got the curtains there, black, green, all kinds of options. Well, the funny thing is, you know, I remember when I went to LA, someone told me, like, in LA, like, my thought is, well, you know, if the character's supposed to be run down, like, then you look like you're rolled out of bed. But the old rule in Hollywood is even if you're auditioning for, like, someone who's dying of AIDS, you still have to look fabulous. Like, you got to walk in looking spectacular.
Okay.
Like, yeah, just, you know, have a little suggestion on one thing, but the rest of it, you need to look like you basically work out 6 days a week and just finish the South Beach diet or a cleanse.
Okay. Because sometimes I go, oh, well, this looks kind of like character, you know, just fluff it up. But anyway, can't add that. Okay, good note. Check. I'll keep that in mind. So I have, I just want to ask you a couple of questions, and I thought this would be fun. You know, because we're all wanting to get to know you and learn more about what you do. We could go to your website and all that, but I'm just curious, since we've all been kind of, you know, mostly at home, and I've gotten into some really cool series that I probably, if I didn't have the time being home, I wouldn't have watched it. So what's your favorite series that you've been watching lately that you really
All right.
Yeah.
So I've been binge worthy a little bit on Snowfall this week. It's pretty dark, but it's awesome, and the pilot was really well done, I thought. Not as good as the pilot for Ozark, but close. It's a good show, though. It's really, like, I love John Singleton, so if you're a fan of Boys in the Hood and, you know, all those Shaft, all those things that John Singleton did, like, it's a little bit, the beginning is a little bit of a kind of love letter to LA in the early 80s. And I like vintage, and I love the 80s too. I'm like stuck in the 80s. So I like seeing all those kind of retro things. But Snowfall is an excellent show. And we were watching it for comedies too. We were into Schitt's Creek for a little while. And I'll probably circle back into that. That's a good comedy also. Like,
so what's your
Eugene Levy
character in Snowfall?
In Snowfall? Oh, Avi, I think his name is Avi. No, yeah, Avi. He's the like cocaine, like Hollywood big drug dealer. This like crazy Israeli guy, and he's like, you don't know what he's gonna do from one second to the next. He's a functioning psychotic. It's a great character. I like that character a lot. He's a good one, and it's cool. I looked up the actor. It's an Israeli actor, and he hasn't, you know, he's done a few things in the United States, like, but, you know, it's giving an opportunity to somebody new as far as I'm concerned, which I always like when you see the little choice character roles. And I find they're more interesting often than sometimes than the protagonist, although the lead guy in Snowfall is great. He's really, really good. All the actors are excellent. But yeah, there's some really good characters in there, and the writing is good though. It's weird, you know, it ties in connections between the CIA and like the cartels and the early kind of thing about the cocaine empire. They try to humanize, they try to, you know. So I don't know how I feel about that, but listen, as a character, you know, you're playing a real person. And, you know, I heard Russell Crowe in an interview say that recently. He said, you know, I've got to feel like if I'm playing the guy, like I've got to go the extra mile. Like there's got to be blood in it. Cause like this is a person's life I'm trying to embody. Even if it's a fictitious character, it's a person's life. So if it's too easy for me, like I haven't earned the right. As De Niro says, you have to earn the right to play the character. Like I have to earn the right. That doesn't mean you have to go all method and go live in a prison if you're playing a prisoner, but you know, it's got to matter. You got to believe it, and it's got to matter, and you got to be in it.
I've been getting into Narcos. Well, that's a wild series, and it has
my God,
similarities, you know, and yeah, I mean, just amazing. When you talk about you can't judge the character, those guys don't judge nothing because you can totally see they're totally justified in what they do, and it's amazing. So if you
every good story, I think, Rosie, is an argument, and every good script has to have an argument in it. If it's too one-sided, it's didactic. It's just there's no argument, there's no real conflict, but it has an argument against one side versus the other. In Snowfall or Narcos or, you know, a lot of those shows, when they humanize these drug dealers, they try to show us that they're like real people who under extraordinary circumstances took a series of actions to increase their survival because they believed it was kill or be killed. And so therefore we can accept them being this like ruthless killer. And as an actor, you know, I was coaching someone today and we were talking about an attorney who, it was a lawyer scene. There was an argument literally between two people. And it's like, you can't judge that. Even if that character has a viewpoint that's different from your own, somehow believe their point of view and find a way that's real for you and negate the part of your mind that wants to cancel that. And it was Denzel Washington's teacher and like a lot of big people. James Caan said he learned more from him about acting and everything he knows about this industry he learned. Wynn used to say that 90% of acting was self-suggestion. And I think that's what he was onto, Rosie. I think he was saying that you really have to like coax yourself and talk yourself into believing in a point of view, in very specific point of view, in order to inhabit that character without judging it. And if you can really do that and believe it like anything and relate to it, then I think you can almost play any part. You know, the worst thing that I hear from actors is, well, I'm not like that guy, or I'm not like that person, or I'm not like her, or whatever. My response, silently, don't be an actor. Like, you know, like, because part of it is we're becoming other people, but we're also still very much ourselves. But you have to be able to like take on somebody else's viewpoint and make it your own, and finding a way to do that doesn't feel like that you can really take that leap of suspension of disbelief and really believe it. Like you were doing last weekend with that scene, you know, where you had to be the mother from I, Tonya.
Yeah, that was very, that was a lot. it was hard to sustain, but it was, you have to try and find those. I think that we all have these parts where we don't want to acknowledge, but they're there, you know, so that's how you can access them.
That's right.
But anyway, but you just can't use your real kids in the imagination work. Anyway, did I say that out loud? So I have a question. What's your favorite movie of all time?
My favorite movie of all time, it used to be Superman. It might be The Godfather Part 2. But I'll tell you why. Superman was what made me want to be an actor. When I was a kid, I was fascinated with his abilities and his powers, and I wanted to be Superman. You know, I, like every other kid, probably tried to fly off the roof. And my mother finally told me that would never happen. I could never be Superman, but you could become an actor like Christopher Reeve and, you know, play Superman one day. And, you know, through serendipity and just sheer coincidence, you know, the teacher that I ended up working with, Harold Guskin, was Christopher Reeve's acting coach after Superman and Juilliard and all that stuff.
When his career manifested. That's awesome.
It was really just a total sheer, like, I must have manifested that without knowing. But yeah, it was, but that was the thing, was like, okay, well, you know, as an actor, like, the greatest thing is you get to live. Every time you get a scene, you get to kind of live another life. It's like, it's still me, but what if I made different decisions in my life that led to me becoming, you know, an officer of the law, or led to me becoming a surgeon? Like, you know, I was good in school, and I'm a pretty smart guy. And if I really hit the books and didn't sleep and stayed up all night, and, you know, and then did 7 years and all this torture and all the trials and tribulations. And so you take that leap, that imaginary life, so that you can walk in this person's shoes. But it's still like George, if he had become a doctor, or George, if he had been, you know, it's like Robert Duvall says, it's you bent to the character.
Yeah.
So it's still me, but it's also kind of another me. It's like a parallel universe. So we get to live these many lives as actors, which I think it's glorious. I mean, it's fun. We get to just do all this stuff and cram it into one lifetime. Like, who gets to do that?
That makes me think. So, what character, or if there is a character out there that you, what would be the one that you ultimately want to play? Like, your ultimate goal? Is there a character that you recognize that's out there, or a combination of two characters that you'd like to play, like in the next?
So I'll tell you what I like to play. So I like to play characters that have some sort of ruin, that like get in their own way, but, you know, that are sensitive, but also, you know, kind of stuck, like Biff in Death of a Salesman. Like, you know, he's a, but for some reason he just can't, the devil in a brute dress that keeps coming around and keeps getting his own. And, you know, but that are conflicted, that are, you know, that have strong family ties too, like the connection with his father, like fathers and sons. Those kind of stories interest me. Bad mentors, that's a theme that I love to play. Characters that like have mentor figures, or even playing the bad mentor, but someone who seems like they're like really there to help people, like a life coach or a guru or some sort of leader or a teacher, but they're actually kind of self-serving and sort of, you know, a cult leader. You know what I mean? Like bad mentors or bad father figures, and those kind of characters are really interesting to me as well. But, you know, yeah, like I like these underdog characters who never quite reached what their dreams were, but they're still kind of fighting and clawing for them. You know, like Rocky, you know, the 1 in a million kind of guy, but for whatever reason, you know, he thinks he hasn't been dealt the right cards, but the reality is, you know, he just made some bad decisions probably along the way because of his ego, because of ego. It's the thing that always does every great character in his ego.
Does everybody in.
Yeah.
So, I know you're located in Atlanta right now, right? Throughout this whole, last couple of years, you've been kind of everywhere. What's your favorite place to be? Not considering this whole situation, but as far as like the just working, New York, LA, San Francisco, Atlanta, what's your favorite place and why?
So I liked New York the best because it was easier to film there. I felt that New York was, you know, Mayor Bloomberg put in a lot of policies apparently after 9/11 that it made it filmmaker friendly, and there was just a lot less red tape. You know, like obviously if you work on like a film with budgets, you know, that or at a major studio, it's like being in Disneyland. So that's fun the few times I've gotten to do that, or like when you get to go to Fox. But generally, like when you're doing independent films, which I've done a lot of, like a lot of them had to leave LA. They had to go out to, you know, outside of LA County somewhere, or go to Temecula, or go to San Bernardino, or, you know, go out other areas. So New York City, though, you can be walking on the street. They don't have the film police. Like I know people in Melrose that got like their red cameras confiscated because they were saying, "Oh, we're just testing the camera," and then boom, the camera was snatched up and they got a $2,000 fine or something, you know, a ticket. Like LA, they want that studio film money and you need permits and they want you to pay through the nose. New York City is more filmmaker friendly, like for like indie filmmakers, guerrilla filmmakers, and whatnot. I think Atlanta has similar kind of things. Like there's a lot of incentives, which is why they want production here. So I like, but I mean, listen, California though, it's got everything. Like, where else can you know, be on the beach and 2 hours later in the snow on the mountains? I mean, everything is just so close by, and it's consistently like daylight. Unless it's February, there's no rain. So I mean, it's the most aesthetically pleasing in terms of like having options. But I think as an actor, like, you know, the best really experience overall is probably shooting in New York City. You feel really appreciated there, probably because it's such a theater heavy town that they're happy to have film production and television there.
That's neat. I have yet to get a chance to work there, but that's cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my next question. You started teaching when you were living in LA, and describe your favorite teaching moment.
God, there's so many of them, but I will say I had like a couple weeks ago, I had a really great sort of after teaching moment, which was that I had a student that I was one of my first students in California who I met when she was 16 years old, and she booked her first recurring role on like a major television show with like creme de la creme producers, A-list, you know, star executive producing, and great writing and great actors. And, you know, she went up to Canada for 2 months to film.
Wow.
And, you know, we had a conversation about self-taping and all the great things, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and a lot of them, and Hilario Lariva, who you know. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, I'm on hold for something. And because we do these self-tapes and you never hear anything 99% of the time for most actors. Or maybe you get, if you're lucky, you get an avail check, and then even then you never hear anything unless you get the job. So it leaves like actors in a quandary. They don't get the feedback that they used to have when they could go in the room and kind of get a sense. Even then you didn't know, like, they're not going to tell you suck to your face, but at least you got a sense. Like, I felt like I did my thing, and there's a collaboration. Often if casting would like you, they would play with you and you get to do it again, and they'll give you a redirect or some direction. With self-tapes, it's kind of like one and done. You send it out, you hope that they like what you did, and if they don't, you're probably not going to hear much. And even if they do, you might not hear something for political reasons because you don't fit the cast list or what they're looking for. There's just something changes, or they had an offer out to a star and you never heard about it. But so like for me, yeah, finding out that like a student of mine that I've coached for years and really like supported and was championing all along, booked like what could be a breakthrough part or a career changing thing. Like that's, I mean, that's what it's all about.
That's
you know,
I'm so excited.
Otherwise, what are we doing here? I mean,
yeah,
it's a hobby. You know.
Well, sorry, it's not a hobby. Yeah.
I said that's what I'm saying is like if that's not the goal, it's like a hobby, you know. And I'm looking to teach actors who really want to be brilliant actors and great actors, and you know, like, not to say that if this is somebody who wants to do community theater, they can't study. I mean, sure they can, but even then, I would want to push them to be like, listen, if you really love this thing, like, go, why don't you go for it? Like, take the gloves off. Like, sometimes it's time to, like, you know, jump off the monkey bars.
Yeah, I feel like it's like being a pro athlete, you know? I mean, all these pro athletes have these coaches, and you need them because you can't, you can go it alone, but it's a journey, lonely, but we all need we all need somebody, you know, to coach us and help us and to really kind of see on the outside what we're doing, or what we're not doing.
Yeah.
And it's just a little tweak. It really is. But anyway, but you're a coach, teacher, and you're an actor. And I love working with you know, people who are in the trenches, you know, that aren't on the sidelines. You know, so as an actor, what's your favorite audition experience? Can you describe that?
It's not a professional audition.
Oh.
My favorite audition experience, and I didn't go to, when I was like starting, I didn't know anything about, like in America, the whole league of theater schools, like that people go through, like, you know, where you go audition for Juilliard or Yale or Carnegie Mellon, or what's the one in San Francisco, American Conservatory Theater, or, you know, or there's a handful of North Carolina School of the Arts is another one. Now I think there's Trinity at Brown University, but there's like this whole league of, I don't know, 17 or 20 top university programs, and you get a theater degree, and then they do a showcase for both coasts. And I didn't know anything about that. Like, I went to a 2-year school, it was called AMDA, because I saw they were giving out scholarships, and I didn't know anyone in the business. I didn't know anything about acting. I just was going to, you know, a state college, and I had always wanted to like be an actor, but didn't do anything. I took a couple classes in my New Jersey college, and then I saw this thing, and I went there, and it was, you know, it was fine, but the kids that go to those schools get a huge advantage because they do this big showcase. So while I was there at one point, there was we were right down the street. We were on the Upper West Side from Juilliard, and I had known that Christopher Reeve went there, and I was a horrible student in high school. I didn't think I had stood a prayer to get into like a great college or anything. And I didn't even know anything about anyone, but I went there sort of on a whim, like as I was about to graduate. And I walked in, and I knew it was like pretty competitive, but I assumed they probably cut like half the people that they would see every day and call them back. Well, so I showed up with my classical monologue and my contemporary monologue. And I remember asking, can you use the person for your monologue that's one of the judges in the room? And they said, the one person said, we prefer you don't, but if I'm in the room, you can use me. And I said, okay. And I signed up. I came in the very next day. It was like really on a whim. It was sort of something on my bucket list. Like, it would be cool to audition for Juilliard. Or if I got in, I wouldn't have time to go. Like, I'm already graduating from this other program and starting to work as an actor, but it'd be fun. And I went in, and I remember coming in like sort of in character. I had like a food poisoning. I'd been out, and the guy had this horrible drug experience the night before. I ended up in the emergency room. And so they pumped his stomach, he said, at the very end. So I came in holding my you know, and my stomach, and you can't see me right now, but I'm sort of holding it. And I saw the 3 people here, and I just kind of was like, and I went like this, you know, coming in, and she stopped. She goes, "Are you okay?" And one of the judges got up and started to run out to get someone, because they thought that I was like sick to my stomach, or I was going to faint or pass out. And then I just went, I didn't want to talk. I just went, and she goes, "Oh, this is part of the thing." Oh. And I said, you know, and I didn't want to acknowledge her. It's like, if you can't figure out later, that's your problem. I'm in it. Like, I'm here. You're either coming with me or you're not. And so I started to go into the thing. And I chose, there were 3 people, and there was this one woman who had this stoic sort of expression on her face the whole time. And she gave me nothing and was dead as a wall. So it was like I would have been better off acting with a spot on the wall than using a real person. But I always liked, my teacher used to say, you can't act with ghosts. So I always like to use a real person if there's one in front of me, even if they're giving me nothing, because it's a human being and I can relate to something in space. He always said that only crazy people can act with people that aren't there. But if you're an actor and you're sane, you need to have a real person, you know. So even if in a shot, if I work with the cameraman, if I've got to use the camera, I'll like look at the cameraman. But anyway, sometimes I'll look at the camera. But so I went through it. And then in the end, I came out, and I knew they were going to do a callback in the afternoon. And there was hundreds of kids around Juilliard. And I was a little, you know, like most of them were high school kids. I was already like, you know, college age, graduate age at that point. But I figured they'd cut about half of us. And there might have been like 400, 500, 480 people there that day, like 200 or 300 in the morning and, you know, 200 in the afternoon. And so I just figured, well, let me go work on my monologues, and I'll read my Shakespeare and go off in the stairwell where it's quiet and I can kind of be alone. And I was sitting there, and every time I walked out, it was like a mob of people walking around. And I came out, and at one point I saw the building was completely empty, and I went, oh, everybody's cleared out of here. I said, I wonder if they're doing the callbacks or they posted it. And this man come running around the corner, one of the administrators that I'd met the day before, and he said, George Gallagher? And I said, yeah. And he took me by the hand, pulled me over to the wall, and pointed to the sheet on the wall. And there were 4 women's names and my name. And he said, boom, and it said callback list. He said, you're needed in there right now. And I looked and I went, where's everybody else? It's like, I thought they're going to call back like 80 people, 70, like, you know, like it'd be like American Idol, like they'll eliminate and they invite you to Hollywood. And then, you know, like, I didn't think they're going to call back 5 people out of like 400 all day. Like, to me, that seemed like nothing. And I was like the only guy. And I walked through these 2 doorways, through 2 doors into a corridor. And as the door opened up, there was about 12 faculty members on the left and, you know, students that were working there on the right. And then there were a couple other girls that they'd called back, and we were all in a line walking through, and they were applauding for us on both sides. It was like walking out the tunnel, running out the tunnel into the Super Bowl. And we were about to do the callback for the entire faculty of like 28 or 30 people, you know, at the school. And I remember feeling like those people on the reality shows, like American Idol, and like tears streaming down my face. And like, I just thought, oh my God, like I beat out hundreds of people to be here. And like, I'm validated. And it's like, you know, if you go there, they do their art course, they do their academics at Columbia University, which is part of the Ivy League. I'm like, you know, I barely graduated high school and now I might go to Columbia. Like, it was just surreal, just based on talent. And I was like, this is just an incredible like experience. And then I got in the room, and if I didn't think I did that great the first time, there was so much validation that I got from so many people so quickly that I just had so much confidence. And that's what I really believe is the most important thing for an actor to have, is confidence. Like, it's a confidence game. And so I thought the callback went even 10 times better. And then they had me stick around for an interview after that. And there was like, out of the 14 of us, you know, 4 of us from the morning and then however many from the evening, a few of us stuck around for interviews. And they say, well, it doesn't mean you're not being considered, but then they whisper and say it does. It's a good thing. Anyway, I didn't end up getting in. They called back. They have like, I don't know what it is, a 2% acceptance rate. I think Harvard is like 5 or something. I mean, it's like the most competitive artistic school in America, maybe in the world. But it was probably down to me and like 2 other people, because I got a rejection letter saying we auditioned 3,000 people and we called back 80. You know, it was like that. And so I did the math, and I had a friend that was already a student there, and I kind of asked around, and I know the guy who got my spot was sort of a different type. That's the other thing, is like with schools, it's like they're assembling a company. So they only have like one person of your category they can take in any given year. Anyway, I never did it again, but it was something that always stayed with me. And I always sort of thought that those kids kind of that came out of those programs, if anything, regardless of what they learned there, the fact that they just get accepted and that they're in and they're around so many other really talented people, I think that feeds the fire, and it gives them a certain confidence so that when they go out into the world or into the industry, I think they have that kind of going for them already. Because it really is like a big confidence game. But it was just so surreal. It was like something out of a movie. I'll never forget it. I mean, it would have been nice if I'd gotten in and all that, but you know, to end the story. But again, and I've gotten big jobs and other things, but nothing ever quite stayed with me like that experience, you know?
Got it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you this one closing question, but this actually is better. If you were to give somebody an exercise, like an acting tip or something to build their confidence, what would you say to them? For someone watching today, what would you say go out and do this week and watch your confidence build?
Something that scares you, especially if it involves getting up in front of people, or even doing what we're doing, you know, a live video of sorts, taking a monologue, doing it live, posting on our page. I'll critique it. I'll do one pre-critique. If somebody wants to do it on the Actors Corner network page, you know, do a monologue, post it. I'll give you a critique. But grab something that interests you, that excites you, or even scares you. Steven Spielberg said he always knows it's going to be the best scene in the movie, one of the best scenes in the films, if he's either really afraid to direct the scene or he's really excited. So if you don't feel it's one of those 2 things, don't do the monologue. Like, pick something that really interests you, or that either scares you or that fires you up. And confront that. But if you do something that scares you, I think you grow. You know, like stress in our culture has a negative connotation. I've done studies in biology in like petri dishes, where if you take a microorganism and you put it in a very neutral environment, like an amoeba or a single-celled organism, it'll die. But if you put something in it that creates stress, some sort of counter agent in the mix, it gets stronger and it grows and expands and it flourishes. So I think we have this idea of, oh, we're worried about stress overload. And it's like, no, no, no. Stress is an opportunity for us to grow. It's an opportunity for us to be like, to breathe into it, be like, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I expand? And I think that's the most important thing for an actor, again, is to confront whatever your fear is. That's how you build weight. And as soon as you think you're over that, like if you go out the next time, you have more confidence, but you think, oh, like smooth sailing from here, you're dead. It's no good. You're dead. As soon as you think, oh, I got this acting shit figured out, it's easy. No. Like I used to have that with Harold Guskin. I would walk in and be like, oh, I got this acting thing, and it's taken off the page. And I go in and it was just terrible that day. Everything be controlled. He'd stop me every time I opened my mouth, tell me to go back. And like I'd be acting up a storm, and I was just getting in my own way. So you have to just continually challenge yourself and always kind of, I think, be humble, but throw yourself into that discomfort.
Got it. So now we got a challenge. That's cool. And I'm thankful that you will chime in if somebody monologue. Thank you. So
my pleasure.
Oh, Kathy, we have some friends that are watching. Hi guys. Hi Kathy. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you have a client that you have to attend to. Have a good time, and we'll I know we have some other things brewing in that are going to surface and come up. So I will post that throughout the week, and hopefully we can get you back on at another time, Monday or
yeah, it'd be great.
Okay.
All right. Well, feel free to share anybody who likes this this video. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Robert. Sorry we didn't get to talk to you, but hopefully next time, feel free to do a challenge. Throw something up there.
Yeah.
And I'll critique it.
Cool.
All right. Cool.
All right. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Rosie.